All right, so here it is. I was able to go to a special press screening of Black Adam tonight, and wow. All right, I've got a lot to talk about, and I am going to keep this review spoiler-free, but you're going to want to stick around till the very end when I talk about the post-credit scene. I am going to break a few things down. I'm not going to ruin the scene, but, well, I'm going to ruin a little bit of the scene when we get to the end. So if you don't want to know anything about the post-credit scene with Superman, don't stick around. But I'll warn you about that at the very end. So I'm going to break this review up and talk about the things I didn't like first. Now, it's going to be a pretty big list, but don't think that this ruins the film or really drags it down. But I do have a few gripes with some of the stuff in there. First of all, I'm going to break down kind of the characters here who's in the film, and I want to talk about, what I thought of each of the characters. So first of all, we obviously have Dwayne Johnson as Black Adam. Freaking awesome. This was a perfect portrayal of this character. You can tell that this was a passion project. He embodied Black Adam and did a great job. And while there was some humor with him, it wasn't goofy humor, okay? There were some very sarcastic comments that were really well done and well placed. Like he's got some timing that a lot of seasoned actors don't have, and he did great in his role. Now we have Sarah Sahai. Now she is. I didn't know what her role in the film was going to be, but I'm not going to tell you what her role is, but she is very much a huge part of this movie. You see her a little bit in the trailer, but you don't know what her role is in the film. But she has a son, and her son play a huge role in the overall film. She did a fantastic job with her role. People might know her from Person of Interest. She was really good. Let's talk about the JSA. You get the sense at the beginning of this movie that the JSA has been around for quite a long time and has been under the control of Amanda Waller at Task Force X. They actually do label the facility where she works as Task Force X in the movie, which was really nice to see. And you can tell that she's had to call on them in the past. Now, my big issue with this is at the beginning of first of all, 99% of what you see in the trailers is like in the first 30 minutes of the film. Like the first 30 minutes, well, actually the whole movie is go, go, go from the beginning. There are no slow moments in this film. And 90% of what you see in the trailer was in the first 30 minutes, which was crazy. I couldn't believe that, the rest of the film, they really didn't show you anything from the rest of the movie. And it's for a reason. And the JSA, when they have to go in, you see it in the trailer, so I'm not spoiling anything, but when they got to go in to kind of take Black Adam down, you're sitting there wondering, why are they having to do this? Like, what's the purpose behind this? Well, it seems a little out of place. Like, they should have waited a while before they brought the JSA in, because, they make it very clear that the JSA shouldn't even be in Kahndaq. They shouldn't be there. And so I was a little worried about how that was going to play out, but they explain it perfectly. So that's going to get all explained in the movie. It's really well done. In fact, the story of Black Adam and his character, how it is laid out in the film and actually revealed, is masterfully done. It is a really well-written story, and this is his movie. It is about him. And I'm going to talk about that when I talk about the villain here in a few minutes. I'm going to trail back to that sentiment. But let's talk about Hawkman. Aldous Hodge. Oh my gosh. Freaking awesome. Hawkman is not a character I ever expected to see in a film, let alone this quickly after, things were changing and we had the announcement of this film. And wow. Freaking awesome Hawkman. I just, that's all I'm going to say about his role. Hawkman's awesome in this movie. You also have Dr. Fate, Pierce Brosnan. He did a great job with his character as well. Now, my problem, and this is where these problems come in, we get zero backstory on Hawkman. None whatsoever. They don't even address who he is, where he came from, but he's been around. That's all we know. Pierce Brosnan you get a little bit of Dr. Fate. A little bit of his backstory is laid out in the film in certain points, but we still don't know where he came from. They also bring in Atom Smasher, and they bring in Cyclone, the girl. And here's what I'll tell you about them. They were kind of just thrown into the movie. Like, they didn't even need to be in the film. Like, I don't even know why they were in there other than just to make a bigger team. And first of all, the girl who plays Cyclone, she's the most cartoonish character in the movie with the way she dresses and the way she looks. It does not match the rest of the film. It's very odd and out of place. I didn't hate her character, but she really didn't even need to be in the film, and neither did Atom Smasher. He's a very inexperienced person. You get a little bit of their backstory at the very beginning of the film. Outside of that, this is a Black Adam film, so you don't need to know the JSA history. Just that they have been around and that they do take care of things around the world and have for a while. But outside of that, you don't get any backstory on these characters, and I'm wondering why. Like, what I will tell you is this movie should have been longer. It clocks in at about 2 hours, and it doesn't seem like 2 hours. Like, this movie goes, you don't have any, there's no free time. There's no slow time. There's no downtime. There's no slow moments. It just goes from the opening sequence until the very end. And it didn't seem as chopped up as a lot of the critics said. And I was worried going into this film because a lot of critics were giving it 2 out of 5, 2.5 out of 5. Way off base. I'm going to tell you right now, this shows the fraud that critics are. When you have these critics out there praising something like She-Hulk, praising something like Thor, Love and Thunder, but then they bash something like Black Adam, something's wrong. The gig is up. The gig is up. These critics are a freaking sham. And here's what I love about the way technology has changed. YouTube gives people like me a platform to come and talk about these things. I'm not a professional reviewer. Yes, I've been reviewing movies my entire life, but I am never going to bend to the will of a studio. I can't be bought by Disney. I can't be bought by any of these studios. And it is very clear that these reviewers, there's a bias out there. Well, the gig's up. This right here is going to show everybody how much of a fraud they are. You can't believe them, okay? And let's talk about the villain. So the villain is Sabach, but I'm not going to talk about how much he's in the film, but a lot of people in their review have compared this to the third act of Wonder Woman. The third act of the first Wonder Woman movie, to me, is one of the weakest acts in any of the DC films. Like, it just felt very superfluous, very tacked on, not very engaging. I didn't care for the villain. Well, the villain in this movie was never meant to be some three-dimensional amazing villain because this is a Black Adam origin story. He's in there to further Black Adam's story, not to be the main villain of the movie. I thought the ending was pretty fantastic. I really enjoyed how it played out and what happened. So my issues with the film were the fact that I know that there's a longer cut out there and I want to see it. I want to see this fleshed out more. It was a very quick movie. It goes. There's no downtime. I really want to see the extended version. So my biggest complaints are the story and them not giving us the backstory on these characters. I would have liked more. Is it 100% necessary to tell the story of Black Adam? No, they're there to help tell the story of Black Adam. So they're not. We don't need their backstory. So let's talk about what I loved. I loved Black Adam, the story, his backstory and everything was great. I love the music in this film. Oh my gosh. There were definitely elements, and even my friend that went with me, we picked out elements of Man of Steel. Parts of the Man of Steel score, especially at the beginning of the film, were in there. And this is directly tied to Shazam. It's directly tied to the films that have happened in the past. They definitely refer to all of the heroes that we know and love. There's lots of Easter eggs in the film. So this is definitely a DCEU connected film. There is no question about that. And we've had The Rock talk about this being a cornerstone and phase one of moving forward. And I can see what he means by that. This is bringing everything together. And it's going to be interesting to see. We're definitely going to have the Justice League grow from events that happen in this film and going forward for what's going to happen. Whether or not, now there's no direct ties to Zack Snyder's Justice League, and the vision that Dr. Fate had in the movie had nothing to do with Darkseid or his vision. We have Intergang in this film, and again, they're not tied at all to Darkseid either. And in fact, that's another complaint that I have, is they don't ever tell you what the purpose is behind. I mean, we know what they're doing in the film, but we don't know why. There's no purpose behind it. We don't know why Intergang is there. We don't know their origins, where they come from, or why they were doing what they were doing. Like, it's kind of like, again, thrown in there to further the storyline. And outside of that, this movie is fantastic. Like, I thought it was well directed. There are some direct throwbacks to 300, to Zack Snyder's style. You can definitely see that, especially in the first 30 minutes of the film. There are some things at the very beginning. It's like you would think you were watching 300. There were definitely some things that harken back to Man of Steel, you know, the floating in the water, the way Black Adam moves, especially at the beginning. There are things that definitely throw back to the style that Zack Snyder has. So you can see how Zack Snyder, again, was the blueprint of all of this, and they're following that, which is great. So if you don't want to know anything about the return of Superman, then check off right now, because I'm going to talk about the end credit scene and how I thought it was perfectly done. So we all know that Henry Cavill is back as Superman, and they are doing Man of Steel 2. If you haven't seen that, check out my last video on the DCEU. It goes over a lot of that information. But first of all, in the trailers where you see Black Adam say, you know, there's nobody on this planet that can stop me, Black Adam is talking to Amanda Waller. And she basically tells him, yeah, there might not be anybody on this planet that can stop you, but if you leave Kahndaq, I've got people who not from this planet who will stop you in a heartbeat. And that's when he kind of destroys the thing that's showing her image. And out of the smoke, all of a sudden, Superman is there. And he's like, you know, you and I need to talk. He has the curl. And okay, now people are going to get upset at this, but it wasn't overplayed in the film. You slightly hear John Williams' score. There's a few notes from it, but it's very subdued and in the background. His suit does seem to be brighter and cleaner, but I don't think this is going to take away from it being... I think all of Snyder's stuff did happen. They're just going to move forward with the character. And whether they refer back to those things or not, I don't know. But he does have the suit, and people do have to understand that if you watch Zack Snyder's Justice League, when he does go back to the ship to get a suit, they did have a red and blue suit there for him to use. He just chose to take the black one instead. There's nothing saying he didn't go back afterwards and get the suit. So the suit and the music don't matter. Here's what matters. People need to go see this film. It's an incredible film. My overall score for this is a 4.5 out of 5. So basically a 9 out of 10. And I was not expecting that. I was expecting probably a 3 at best. Maybe a 3.5 out of 5. But no, this movie far went beyond my expectations. I loved the music. I really enjoyed the character. I loved watching the story play out. I just wanted more. I wanted more. They just didn't give enough, and I want to see that extended cut. They would be wise to maybe release an extended cut 6 months from now to get more people in the seats. But the critics are a sham. Don't believe the critics. It's just, yeah, go see this movie. This movie deserves to be viewed by many people, and it needs to be talked about on social media. I'm not going to spoil anything of the film. I went in blind, not knowing what was going to happen, and I believe that's how everybody should go in as well. After you've seen it, come back to my video, make comments. I would love to hear what people thought of it. I'm over the moon about this film. Like, it was really well done. Not as good as Zack Snyder's Justice League, Batman vs. Superman, the Ultimate Edition, or Man of Steel, but it's pretty dang close behind those. It is now one of my top 5 favorite DC films. Like, I really, really enjoyed this. I just hope they follow through and continue with Zack's vision and don't discount anything that's happened in the past. But that remains to be seen. All right, we will see you guys on the next video.